Welcome back to another Digital Games Conference virtual session. Up next, we're talking to Hani Suwwan, the MENA Region Business Development Manager for one of the world's leading gaming gear brands, HyperX. Hani, welcome to Digital Games Conference.
Thank you. My pleasure to be here. Actually, it's good to be one speaker of this event, which I attended one of the editions live a couple of years ago.
Well, it's good to have you back. So, Hani, I guess it'd be great just to get rolling really with you sort of telling us a little bit about HyperX's work in the MENA region and why having a strong presence here is important to your company.
Okay, this is a good question. Actually, MENA is a very interesting region for us, and we had a big focus there. We actually love the community. They are very young. They are all gamers. They have a nice energy, and we like to engage with. So during the last 2 years, we bought a couple of investments in the region. To start with, we have dedicated local business people on the ground just to follow up on the business and make sure it's covered with the products that we launch. We launched the HyperX website in Arabic language, which was a great effort for us so that gamers can look and read about the products in Arabic, which is really good. And recently we launched our social media accounts on Twitter, Instagram, and even Facebook in Arabic so that we engage with the community and we can support them in local language when they need. So they can communicate with us and we respond to them. Last year, we also expanded into more countries like Tunisia and this year into Morocco. And more brands are coming for this region, so stay tuned.
And you obviously, you touched upon the kind of the community aspect there and the sort of the marketing, local marketing, obviously, the website in Arabic. How important is that element of things and really getting your message across, and what sort of provisions do you make to kind of really focus on this region and really kind of laser focus on that audience?
Okay, so for gamers, they like to be served in their language. They like to read the product specs in Arabic. So the website was a starting point there as a way to communicate and as informative way. When you search about a certain product, you need to find it in your local language. We had actually more localization efforts in the region. So if you know that publishers, they place now the games, they are in Arabic, in menus and subtitles. So what we did as well is we took our best keyboard, which is the Alloy Origin Score. It's a 10 keyless keyboard, aluminum frame, RGB. We took that keyboard and made it in Arabic letters fully from the factory. And that we were the first company in gaming which launches fully mechanical keyboard in Arabic letters, because gamers are not just only gamers. They work, they study, they chat in Arabic during games. So they want to use, one keyboard. It doesn't make sense to have two keyboards. And that keyboard was really well received by the community, and more is coming into that area in the future.
And that's a really interesting point, actually, because we hear a lot about localization of kind of software, of games in the region and kind of in general, but I think the localization of hardware isn't something you necessarily hear that much about. So I guess it's a big step. And do you feel that that's something that enough is being done, or do you think, would you say that you guys are really at the forefront of that and more needs to be done kind of in the wider industry in that area?
Yeah, we have more plans into that area, and I think some companies will take that step as well, because even publishers, one company started that, but now almost everybody is doing that. So having localized products, I think it's really important. And MENA is not a small country. Actually, Arabic language is the number 6 ranked spoken country in the world. So to have localized products is something really necessary. It's not a luxury, I would say.
Okay, and I think, we talk about the way the region is catered for and, obviously when it comes to hardware, what other stuff are you doing in the region? Because I know you've got lots of stuff that you're doing with content creators. Can you tell us a little bit about some of that work that you're doing?
Yeah, so if you know, the last couple of years, the social media is really booming. The content creators are really very strong in the region. across many platforms, whether YouTube, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram. So we work closely with those creators, whether they are influencers, journalists, hardware reviewers, or even gameplay channels. Because we want to engage with their communities, we want to understand their needs, and they want us to try our products because they are the professionals. And very recently, we have appointed our first our brand ambassador in the region to carry the HyperX brand and to run some activities for his audience in the region.
Okay, and that's exciting. And how would you say, as a global company, and you've got sort of reach sort of everywhere, would you say that there are differences in the MENA region in terms of the way you try and cater for that audience? Are there any other things you need to take into account versus, the Western markets? Any kind of interesting things you've learned throughout your time of kind of working in this space?
I think you have to diversify your choices. So not to work only with the big channels or only focus on the gameplay channels, because some gamers, if before they want to buy a product, they look at two things: either a good review, like somebody who's a hardware reviewer who really reviewed the product, used it, and gave all the pros and cons. And some of them, they just like to use a product that their favorite gamers is using. So, oh, this is the headset that this guy is using, so he would be happy to use that. So for us, we work across the platform with influencers, hardware reviewers, and gameplay channels. And regardless of the size, even if the channel is small, we still know that it's just not numbers. Even if you have 1,000 followers, those are 1,000 gamers following that guy. So we really care about their opinion. We would like to engage with them, and I think this is our strength. As HyperX, we say we are all gamers, so we have to talk to all gamers, regardless of their size or their location, I would say.
Okay, and what advice would you have for other people looking to get into this region, into this space, whether it's hardware, whether it's software? What sort of approach should these kind of companies be taking?
As I said, I think it's really important to diversify. Do not just focus on one sector, like maybe just the big channels, or just put the threshold. That channel has to be 1 million followers to talk with. It's always good to see the products. The feedback from pro gamers is really important. They can give you even advice on what they would like to see in a future product, even if it's sometimes impossible. But at least the features that they prefer to have. I think it's really important to hear from them. So do not just focus on one category or one sector or even one country. MENA region is very big, I would say, from North Africa to GCC to Levant. So you cannot just work with the guys in one country and leave the rest of the community in the other countries. Just one example, Facebook in Tunisia, they use the Facebook Messenger as a emailing tool for companies. Like if you have an order, instead of sending email, just send them a Facebook message. So this is something that you really cannot ignore. If you know a Facebook influencer there who's really engaging, then I think it's a good idea to work with them there, to not just focus on YouTube, for example.
Yeah, I think obviously different strategies for different countries within the region makes perfect sense. You mentioned before about the importance of feedback. Are there any examples of where that community feedback has kind of fed into what you do, whether it's the products you're working on, or whether it's the website propositions you offer, or even whether it's the way you kind of market some of the stuff that you're doing?
Okay, so engaging with the community, usually, like we even on our social media accounts, we ask them about the games that they play, or what's their feedback about the game they launched, and then we take this feedback into developing our products. It's not necessarily something that we develop immediately, but just for the future plan. So we feedback all this feedback into the product managers about those features wanted, or things that we should have done better also, and this is being taken into consideration. So it's not something specific to a certain product, just rather having giving the importance for the feedback to those guys, and asking the questions that they would really to deliver their voice in it, especially that we communicate with them in Arabic, so it's even easier to take their feedback.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and in terms of the In terms of the markets in the region, obviously this conference it has a big Saudi focus, and we're looking into the way in which Saudi's Vision 2030 is kind of intersecting with the games industry, because obviously Saudi wants to become a really big player in this space. And I just wondered, does HyperX have any plans to further expand into this market? I mean, what is your current presence in Saudi as it stands?
Yeah, Saudi Arabia is our biggest market. Actually, we have big focus there. We are engaging a lot with the community there and the content creators. So yeah, we are aware of the vision, and part of the vision was to focus on the youth in general and the esports. Even they have the esports federation. The government and the private sectors are the big private sector companies are supporting the big tournaments there, and there are big money prizes. So we were part actually of those tournaments as sponsors. During COVID lockdown, even we took part on many of the online streaming tournaments. We supported with the prizes and the products as well. And we will continue to do so. So there is a mission there that, esports, not just game, just, wasting time. So it can be a career for the children. If your son is playing, maybe he's a pro in this game and he can really build a career and be a professional, participate in global tournaments and win big money that he cannot even make in normal jobs for many of years. Still, studying is important, but it's something to do on the side, and it doesn't need lots of equipment, compared to normal sports. You can do it from your room when you have free time also, just to develop your skills, focus skills, motor skills, and, be known in the country as a champion in that league. And if you hear, there is like a couple of world champions in Saudi Arabia now in FIFA. I think two guys, they won it for subsequent years. So we'll continue to sponsor and support the local community, local tournaments, and local arenas and venues whenever we have the possibility and chance to do so.
Yeah, and I think, you kind of hit the nail on the head there in terms of the investment. Esports is going to be a big part of what's happening in Saudi. Other investments are kind of around the sort of the infrastructure, whether that's, internet speeds or even sort of grassroots development academies to get people sort of creating games. How important do you think it is for you guys to really become a part of that market in terms of perhaps like the independent developer scene? Is that an area that you guys look to at all when it comes to your product?
Yeah, as I said, Saudi is our biggest market. So from business side, we care about the availability of the launching any new launch to be available in Saudi Arabia and the region as well. So something that we work always. It's always in my mind. It's not like okay, this we do it after 6 months or so. If we can do it from day one, we are really willing to do so. And we know it's a big market. It's really good to test the products, especially like in new categories like microphones when we started with 2 years ago. So it's an important market for us to start and launch the products there. The feedback there is really important.
Okay. And in terms of sort of, obviously we've discussed Saudi, are there any other countries in the Middle East or North Africa or Africa in general that you think are kind of, there's lots of potential for you guys to further grow, or anywhere where you've got additional kind of future plans to really develop your presence?
Yeah, so the future, the focus is in the whole MENA region as a whole. Where we see, some countries where we started recently, it needs more focus. Like as I said, we just started recently with North Africa. So we believe there the potential is very big. So we need to place more efforts. Wherever we are well established, like in GCC countries, it's just about, keeping that momentum, allocating the newer products, and keep participating in events. Hopefully next year we'll have more events opening live, and supporting the content creators. The more we have, the better it is.
Yeah, no, that all makes sense. And in terms of, I guess, looking at the Saudi market kind of longer term, and the sort of, I guess, this idea of Saudi becoming a major player globally, that could really change the landscape in the Middle East for gaming. I mean, this is maybe a bit of a pie in the sky question, but is there a kind of a long-term vision for where you think you'd want to see things in the games industry, in the hardware space, particularly, where HyperX would be in that space in the next sort of 10 years or so? What would be the kind of dream scenario for you?
I think 10 years for technology, it's really hard to detect. Maybe we'll have robots working around. Yeah, but we have a mission, to develop HyperX as a gaming ecosystem, not just, product lines. We all also tapped into the idea of working from home and, the hybrid work system. So people now, even gamers, use our products for gaming as well as for their work, for conference calls, for interviews like this. So this is our vision for the future. Just a brand that you can use as a lifestyle brand, whether you go to the gym, whether you game, whether you have a conference call, or watching a YouTube video in the evening. Our headset will fit for all of that, and we'll have a bigger variety to cater for different needs, I would say.
I think that's a really interesting point as well, as the sort of the hardware going beyond just gaming. I mean, do you find that when you're sort of marketing your products, you have to kind of think about adopting different strategies to maybe bring in people that aren't just kind of gamers per se? Like, how do you go about evolving your strategy based on that kind of wider audience?
Just you can diversify the marketing message, and gamers, because we are all gamers, we see that gamers not just the young community. It's not only university or school students. We find even people, professional people gaming, even if it's not like a full-time job or if it's a couple of hours in the week. But those guys, who play niche games, they just want to enjoy a game, maybe 3 hours during the weekend. They really want a good headset to immerse in the game, to have really good audio, maybe to have it wireless so they have their freedom around the house or so on. Maybe they game with their friends. They want something mobile, so that's why we have the wireless mouse, the minimal keyboard, so that you can carry them in your backpack with your laptop and you go game with your friends. So that's why we try to increase our variety so that you choose the product that fits your needs. If you want a headset for the majority of work with a little bit of gaming, then you might find the right fit for that. If you like gadgets that you want, to change your hardware every year, maybe you don't want to spend much on a product, so you can find mid-range products or even entry level that even if you change it after 1 year, then you will not really lose a lot of money. So keep increasing the variety of the products. It's something really important. It's all in our mind to just have a one-stop shop. Regardless of your needs, you can still find the products from HyperX that fulfill your demand. And always we think of value for money, that really you feel that you paid for the product and you really attend the specifications that you want from that money you have spent.
Okay, and you mentioned quite a sort of a wide array of products there that you've got. Are there any other kind of cool gadgets or tech that you've got on the horizon that you're launching soon, or that you've recently launched that you're excited about?
Yeah, the answer lies if you follow all our social media accounts. So you'll be the first to know. You'll be the first to know about any new launch in the region. So stay tuned. There's lots of plans. But yeah, we prefer to talk about it when it's really available in the market, and we will available in more point of sales.
Okay, that's great. Well, that's pretty much all we've got time for today, Hani. But thank you so much for joining us and for telling us a little bit about the sort of the things that HyperX have planned in the region, and of course, the keyboard that you talked about. I think it's obviously a very interesting talking point, this idea of localization of hardware. So I'm sure many of our people today will be looking out for that. So that's great to find out more about. And for our audience, if anyone wants to see any of these sessions, you can of course catch up with them again on YouTube or stay across all of our social channels to find out the latest at DGC. Thanks again for tuning in.